My teacher, you know, it's always some teaching. I probably have 3 or 4 or 5 teachers I could talk about, but it's one I remember from University of Maryland, Professor Maynard Mack, Professor Sandy Mack. I remember taking his class. I just transferred from community college, and he taught like a junior Shakespeare class, one of these big lecture classes with 60, 70, 100 students in it. And I remember the first day of class, he asked who was the oldest student in the class, and some kid raised their hand. Kid was 19. I'm 27 years old. I'm in the back, just rolling in my head, thinking that this 19-year-old kid thought that they were the oldest person in the classroom. And then some other kid raised their hand, and they were like 20. Then some 21-year-old kid raised their hand, and everybody gasped when this kid said that they were 21 or 22. And I'm in the back thinking, let's just get this over with. We could spend the whole class period trying to figure out who's the oldest, when I knew from day one I was the oldest person in this classroom and probably in the school, right? Because I was 27 at the time. And I remember raising my hand and saying I was 27. And I sat in the back of the classroom, and everybody turned to look at me like, who is this, senior citizen that's in the classroom? And he gave me a sticker, and the sticker says Splud, S-Blood, which is a swear from Shakespearean time. And I put it on my laptop. And after that, I sat in the front of the class every class period. He was an amazing professor. I liked Shakespeare beforehand, but he really changed how I thought about Shakespeare. Once he had, I guess it was maybe 5 or 6 students stand up and read a line of Shakespeare, and each person said a word, and then he had them read the same line in a different way. And as a poet, it was really just good for me to think about how you could have this text, and the way you said it, whether it was loud or quiet, changed what happened. And I remember him having us get a partner, and we actually had to perform a part of Julius Caesar. And it was this line that Cassius and Brutus are talking, and they're trying to explain why they murdered Caesar. And one of them says, but isn't life just all these years fearing death? Then aren't we Caesar's friends, saving him years of fearing death? And the absurdity was profound in the sense that it made me think about all of the ways that I had tried to rationalize the things that I had done, and all of the ways that we had thought about crime and tried to rationalize crime. But the point about it really was that he had us do it with a partner. He had us do it big, and then we had to do it small and sort of intimate. And we did this in his room. I mean, he was just so generous that he had this is the second Shakespeare class I took with him, where we were looking at the tragedies. But he had us pair up and come into his office hours and do this and memorize it. And it was just great work. And I loved his class, but that's actually not why I consider him a teacher that has had a profound influence on what I think about my life and myself. You get into a classroom and you got a life in the class and outside of the class. And I wasn't one to tell people in a classroom that I'd been incarcerated. And I just wasn't one really to talk about myself that much. And I got a book deal while I was at the University of Maryland. And I published this book, and the book came out. And I remember at my first reading at Busboy and Poets, Sandy Mack was in the audience on the front row. And he came up to me. He said, this is a powerful book. And it was interesting, though, because it wasn't just like praise for the book. What he said to me was, it's like, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. And I just thought, you meet a lot of people, and you meet people who imagine literature in your life to be so many things. But a teacher, somebody that's really generous, I think, is able to see through a lot of stuff and just sort of care about you as a person. And he used to always tell me, and he still does, he said, make sure you, the thing that drops out of the airplane, that when you, like if it's an emergency, you got to get air for yourself, the oxygen mask. He would always say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, which is a cool thing for somebody to tell you, especially for a mentor to tell you. And yeah, man, he's been reading my stuff since then, and I've been sending him my work, and I always trust him to have an honest opinion, but more importantly, I always trust him to remind me of what it means to be so passionate about a subject that it becomes like infectious, and to be so generous as a human being that even if the way you connect to a person is because they care about this thing that you care about, you still find some kind of space and room and opportunity to make them know that you care about them. So Sandy back. Thank you.